Welcome back. Thank you for watching. So this video, I've been working a lot on my Aragorn deck. I really wanted to see where I could get this. So as you know, I've made other videos about this deck. It's so versatile, which is great because you can do whatever you want, but it also gives you like option overload. So I've got my piles down because, I'm trying to explain this right. When I make a deck, a lot of times, actually all the time, I tend to go with what does the deck need? One, right? What commander is going to be in it? What does the deck need? And then how am I going to synergize that while still making a well-rounded deck? Because you can't, it sucks sometimes to just go on one blanket theme, like I have with a squirrel deck, where I just make tokens and pump them up. That's all it's about, even if to the detriment of removal and draw and things like that. So because this deck's a little complicated, it's got 4 colors, I didn't want to do that with this deck. So I decided to build him a little differently. So instead, what I decided to do was, let me put this, I'll put it over here so you can still see it. There we go. So what I decided to do was separate it by category. Here, let me move this in a little bit, I guess. Right. Make it a little clearer. Okay. So what I decided to do was do it by category. So I have my lands laid out by colorless, 1 color, 2 color, 3 color, every color. I have draw, removal, interactions, my win cons, my ramp, and obviously my commander. So, start things off. I have 16 ramp cards. You got Mox Amber for 0. Get something out early, just start the game going, and it gives you any color of the legendary you control. This deck, there's so many legendaries that I'm going to be using this quite a bit. Soul Ring, it's just a classic. It's 1 mana, you get 2 mana. It can suck, I'll be honest, in the early game if you get this card with this deck, because there's so many color pips you need, and your commander's 4 colors. You know, this commander gets targeted pretty easily, so when you need for 6, it's fantastic, obviously, but early game, actually, you don't want to see this card too early in this deck, to be honest. Utopia Sprawl, 1 mana. I can enchant a forest, so that's the only thing. It's got to be a forest, but it doesn't have to be a basic. And it can produce an extra mana of any color. It's like Rampant Growth, but better. The Lighted Halfling, 1 mana, 1/2. You can add a colorless with this, or you can add a mana of any color, but it has to be legendary. It doesn't have to be a legendary creature, just a legendary spell. So that's nice. Distinction, but there's going to be some legendary creatures in here for sure, and the any color part is just too good to miss. Birds of Paradise, classic, 1 mana, 0/1. Got a flyer for blocking if you really need to, and tap, add a mana of any color. Noble Hierarch, 1 mana, Exalted. So if you attack alone with something, anything, they get +1/+1. So that could work out really well for your commander. It also produces 3 color mana. I have Weathered Wayfarer. It's a 1 mana, 1/1 human nomad cleric. I could tap 1 plains, tap it, search your library for land, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle, activate only if an opponent controls more lands than you. 3 visits. It's 2 mana, search your library for a forest card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Nature's Lore. It's 1 colorless, 1 green, search your library for any forest, put it directly into play, so any, and it doesn't count towards your land limit. Basically saying you just hike it out, which we all knew. Paradise Druid, 2 mana. It's a 2/1. It has hexproof as long as it's untapped, and I can tap it to add a mana of any color. I really like that it has tap 1, add any color. The hexproof is whatever. Biophagus, it's a 1/3, so a little bit stronger. I could tap it, add 1 mana of any color. If this mana was spent to cast a creature spell, it enters with a +1. So it's a mana ramp that also pumps up a creature. So it can be good even later game. You know, if you don't necessarily need the ramp, you can still pump something for free. Fellwar Stone's 2 mana. Any color somebody else can produce, you can produce. So with 3 opponents, it's basically a 4-color card. Bloom Tender, 2 mana, 1/1. Basically, however many colors you control, you put that many mana out. So if you got your commander out, let's say, you produce 4 mana with 1 dude. Fantastic. Arcane Signet, 2 mana. classic. Add a mana of any color you need for your commander color. Elven Chorus, debating putting this card in. It is 4 mana, but the fact that I can look at any card, cast a creature, and then tap a creature to give any color is just such a fantastic value. I don't have a lot of creatures in here, but it's nice because if I do play it, when I do get to that creature, I can throw it out early. Arbor Elf, 1 mana, 1/1. It's untap any forest, so it can kind of produce any land. Well, at least one of the tri-lands. It can't untap the 4 color. That's impossible because they don't have forest designations unless you have Fangorn Forest out, which I do have in this deck I'll get to later. So that's my ramp package. My win cons are 4th Aeolingus, so it's 2 mana and X. I could put X 2/2 humans out with trample and haste. Whenever one or more creatures I control deal combat damage to a player, I become the monarch. So if you got all these tramplers and hasters out, you're going to deal the damage, you know? Taunt from the Rampart, 5 mana until you go to all your creatures your opponents control and they can't block. So it's basically an all-out war of everybody attacking and nobody can block. The only thing is somebody throws out a lot of things with haste, you can still get fucked. Expropriate, 9 mana. Everybody votes starting with you and they either vote time or money. So if they vote time, you get an extra turn. So off the rip, you're getting an extra turn because you're probably going to vote for that for yourself. Then for every vote of money, you, the caster, get to choose a permanent from each player and take that. So you either get 3 permanents or 4 permanents, or you get 4 permanents or 3 permanents and an extra turn, because I don't think anybody's ever going to give you an extra turn, but it could happen. It could happen if you politic right, I guess. So those are my win cons. My removal package is Aura Shards. It's 1 colorless, 1 green, 1 white. Whenever a creature comes into play, it can destroy target artifact or enchantment. It's just great recursable removal. Pact of Negation, 0 mana with the Gandalf art. Very cool. At the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 5. If you don't, you lose the game. Not bad. Not bad. I mean, you're only playing this when you like absolutely need to. You know what I'm saying? This is a last ditch effort card. Beast Within, destroy target permanent, get a 3/3, piece of cake. Path to Exile, exile target creature. They can search for a basic land. Some 4-colored, 3-colored decks, they could not get anything. Swan Song, counter target non-creature spell, non-creature, non-artifact spell. You get them a 2/2 flyer. But it's 1 mana, so that's nice. Alluring Searing Light, 2 colorless, red, white. Each opponent exiles a creature with the greatest power, and then if you have 2 or more instants or sorceries in your graveyard, it deals damage equal to the power of each creature they exiled. So it's a removal and potentially a damage dealer. Swords to Plowshare, classic. I'm not even going to read that. Legolas's Quick Reflexes, amazing card, 1 mana. Split second, so it's done. After you play this, you untap a creature. It gains hexproof, reach, and whenever this becomes tapped, you deal damage equal to its power to a creature. Stroke of Midnight, destroy target non-land permanent. They get a 1/1 human. Just a quick, easy removal. If you have to remove something of your own from getting taken, you get a human, which could synergize a little bit with Aragorn. Hull Breach, 2 mana. It sucks it's a sorcery, but red and green, you can either destroy... You basically can either destroy an artifact, an enchantment, or both. Blasphemous Act, pretty much 1 mana. Deal 13 damage to each creature. Fantastic, easy, quick piece of removal. Force of Vigor, you can either pay 4 to destroy 2 artifacts and or enchantments, or you can exile a green card if it's not your turn and just remove it that way, which is awesome. So versatile. And lastly, Soothing of Smeagol, 2 mana. Return a non-token creature. The ring tempts you. Yeah, it sucks it's non-token. I wish it was anything, but I like that it's a quick engagement, instant, returns it back, goes around indestructible, and the ring tempts you. Lastly, for my draw, I got Growth Spiral, green, blue. Draw a card, put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. This is great because if I have my commander, he gets +4/+4, or something else does, and I can scry too. So if I really need the land, I can kind of scry it out. Glimpse of Nature, 1 mana. Whenever you cast a creature spell this turn, you draw a card. You play this right before your main phase. Plead for Power, 4 mana. You guys vote. Basically, time or knowledge. Time, you get an extra turn. Knowledge, you draw 3 cards. You're pretty much always getting 3 cards, but sometimes you never know. You could politic right if someone's really running away with the game. Recce, 1/2. Whenever you play a legendary spell, any kind, draw a card. Easy day. Party Tree, pretty much 2 mana. Add 2 green. gain 2 life. When a non-token creature comes out, they get a +1, and you draw a card. 1 ring, fantastic. Indestructible, gain protection from everything until next turn when you play it. At your upkeep, you lose a life for each burn encounter, and you can tap to put a burn encounter on and draw a card. Palantir of Ornthak, this is a paragraph card, but it basically says you choose a player and you scry 2 at your end step. You put an influence counter on you. The player has to decide, do they let you draw or not? If they choose not to, you mill cards equal to that influence counter you put on, and the opponent that didn't let you draw, loses life equal to the CMC. Pretty good card because no matter how many influence counters you have, everybody's letting you draw a card. Nobody wants to play that unless it's mill and you're right at the end. Lastly, for the draw/creature, this deck really likes trample and desperately needs flying, which is what Hydroid Krasis has. It has both. I can't believe I didn't put it in sooner. I love this card. I love the art. I know it's like so out of the box for Lord of the Rings, but I like that Gandalf gives me access to everything. He's a uniter, even of jellyfish hybrid beast. So whenever you cast this spell, you gain half X life and half X cards. It's X and Simic. So even if it's countered, you're gaining life and drawing cards, which you desperately need, and it enters with that many +1s. Piece of cake. So that is the bones of my deck. I just want to give a little preview for today's Twitch. I'm going to go over the land later because this is a whole nother video in and of itself. And I'm going to add the last 21 cards here to really singe the deck. I will give you a hint. I'm debating between humans tribal, elf tribal, or ring tempts you. Let's see what happens in the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Check out my Twitch later today too, where I'm going to complete this deck.